Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just possible DC movies coming our way. So as we know, we are heading into this new era or age, whichever way you want to put it, of DC media with the James Gunn-led takeover and the introduction of DC Studios. Technically it's already started, but we won't see it till, over the next 12 to 18 months. Now, we will get our first movie in this universe in about 18 months' time, just under 18 months' time, maybe exactly 18 months' time with Superman Legacy. However, the first piece in this new universe isn't actually Superman Legacy or any other movie, but a television series. And this isn't a live-action series like Peacemaker Season 2 or The Amanda Waller Show, or Waller as it's officially called, though those shows will be some of the first TV projects in this new universe. But this first piece in the DC, Studios rebooted universe, if you want to put it, is an animated one in the form of Creature Commandos, which will be released later on this year. So we'll get our first piece of DC Studios stuff by the end of the year. Now, since we knew that we'd be getting animated projects under this new DC Studios universe banner, many have wondered what could be next. Now, as I said, Creature Commandos is a TV series, but what about the film side? What about movies? Well, we have heard of recent that the people who have been behind the recent DC animated movies haven't heard if there are really any plans from James Gunn's end for animated movies in his world as of yet, and that would mean that there aren't any in development at this point. Not that there won't be any, just that there aren't like this one on a list that are going to be animated. Like, Gunn has said that animated series and movies would be considered for his universe if they were the right fit, which is the case with Creature Commandos, for example. And we also know that the actors that voice the characters in the animation will play them in live action, so that'll be once again the first example with Creature Commandos. Whenever one of those characters appears in live action, it will be played by the voice actor. But one character in particular, or at least mantle, should I say, that people have said should get the animated treatment in a theatrically released film with a bit of a budget is that of The Flash. Now, there is a lot of debate as to whether The Flash is an easy character to adapt into live action, and I think the TV series proves it is possible while not being easy at the same time. But at least on the movie level, we have a limited amount of time, and just like sort of general audiences tapping in, it can be a bit harder to do with this particular character as well as some other characters. And of course, that's going to depend on the execution, but long story short, would an animated Flash movie be the best way to go with the character for a project focused on the character? And then whenever, whoever voices him can show up in other movies that aren't focused on him in live action, whether it's Justice League or just appearing in another character's project, whether it's film or TV. And to give a simple answer as to whether like the animated route is a good option, of course, but what would you do in an animated movie with the Flash that would warrant going down that avenue and not a live action movie like most arguably would maybe prefer, at least general audiences? And I think if you went down the animated route, make it like over the top and something that if they did it in live action, it would cost maybe not just an arm and a leg, but maybe all four limbs. And people really have suggested you do something in the vein of Spider-Verse without just straight up copying it at the same time. But if you did the Flash meeting other speedsters across the multiverse, how would you make it feel different than Spider-Verse, not just feel like a complete ripoff, and rather that it's just, inspired by? Well, let's have a discussion. And one advantage you would have over, say, Spider-Verse, when it comes to a Flash-centered or focused animated project, would be that you can use your main Flash, that being Barry Allen, rather than like with Spider-Verse they used Miles Morales because, Peter Parker had been done to death. You don't have to use a newer character or a lesser known character due to the amount of time another holder of the mantle has appeared in projects that a lot of people have seen. But I think the main thing you could do differently here, which also adds a completely different element, not only overall for the film, but specifically story-wise, is time travel. I think the ability to blend not just multiverse stuff into the story with different speedsters taking part in the story from elsewhere in the multiverse, but also going through time and maybe also involving more speedsters from the past as well as future in respective timelines as well, that just adds more variety into the mix. I mean, even if you look at this standard DC timeline on Earth Prime and what it's like in the future, that would bring in a speedster like Impulse or Bart Allen, and then going into the past or future in other Earth's timelines can also reveal other characters or alternate versions of those characters, even if it's someone like a younger Jay Garrick in his prime, while also having his older self from the present day on his respective Earth as well also there. That'd be cool. But in regards to the overall story, and also more importantly, maybe not more importantly, but also to mention the villain side of things, I think what you want with a movie like this, especially if you are going to involve the Speed Force and all these other speedsters that mostly would connect to the Speed Force as well, you would think that the Speed Force would have to be a threat, or at threats, might I say, to involve that many characters, or at least be some sort of central unifying thing that's holding it all together. Or you could just have a big enough threat that can also jump between Earths and also time travel, but the Speed Force still plays into it. That villain could also be another evil speedster, which would line up maybe even a group of evil speedsters if you want to do that. Or just another villain that has that technology, whatever that technology or villain might be, if they aren't also a speedster. Of course, a lot of minds would jump to a character or a villain like Reverse Flash being an easy choice to put in here, or Reverse Flash leading a team. But I think even using like an alternate take on someone like the Rogues with like maybe from the future on one of the Earths, or even Earth Prime with like ridiculous tech would be cool. And it's a bit of a smaller villain, but even like someone like Abracadabra who is now using tech, but he could fall into the Rogues, and just like tech that exceeds appearing like magic from the future and is now more focused on messing or ruining the Flash, or even just specific parts of the multiverse, stuff like that. But Reverse Flash, if not used, could be used as like a misdirect and still be involved in the story in some way, because it'd be weird to do this big Flash thing and then maybe not involve some evil speedsters as well, or more specifically, not involving an evil speedster like Reverse Flash. But I think when it comes to like just the animated take on the Flash being a possible thing, or just a possibility as a whole, and for some a preferred medium over live action, it just allows it visually to be a bit over the top and extra. We did see some issues in the most recent film for the Flash when it came to the visual side. Though they had this big budget, it still stood out like, oh, okay, well that obviously looks fake, and even just using some of the Flash's powers just didn't really work, especially some of the running and stuff. People just, some people liked it, but a lot of people didn't, or it was just divisive, whichever way you want to put it. Because you can go a few ways in live action when it comes to super speed and depicting it, and just depending on what you really want to focus on when it comes to shooting scenes involving running at that speed. Do you want to focus in on how you're moving with the Flash, or do you want to focus on how other people are seeing it, or a bit of a mixture? And sometimes you just don't hit it, and I don't know if the movie consistently hit it throughout it. Sometimes it looked good, sometimes it just looked a bit questionable, and that just mainly comes down to, there's issues depicting it. In animation, you can sort of avoid that for the most part, because you can sort of do what you want, and it's a bit more, over the top and creative. But with animation, you can just be like super, as I said, like creative with it. And it definitely just gives you an advantage in regards to the heights you can go with, even with less money, just because you don't have to do massive visual effects and make someone look human-like or humanoid, and even just, not having to build sets and everything like that. Especially also when it comes to involving like multiple characters as well in big settings. Like, just imagine like using like 4 different or 5 different or 20 different species and stuff like that, how much that would cost to do all the VFX shots and everything like that, and just create the setting that they're running in. It'd just be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Like, honestly, I'm always going to lean to preferring a live action take on a character or story over animation. I've just always been like that. I'll prefer watching just a live action film, even if it's like a 7 out of 10 over an animated movie that's 8 out of 10. I just find it easier to connect to actual living and breathing and, human characters. I've just always been like that. But if there are certain limitations, and going animated is the clearly best option to take a character, or at least a certain story featuring a character or characters, then I'm fine with that 100%, especially if it's going to make it much better rather than just like a tiny bit better. If it's just a tiny bit better, I'd probably just prefer the live action thing. But if it's going to make it considerably better, or open up the doors to just do something much better in regards to scale and inclusion of other characters and stuff, then of course you'd go down the animated route. I think most people wouldn't go against that. And just the possibility of like a Flash animated project in the film space does sound like a cool idea, and just something that could really show the true heights that not only a character like Barry Allen specifically can get to, but also other members of the Flash family and speedsters throughout the multiverse as a whole as well. I think it could be just a really, really cool movie, depending on the, obviously the execution, also the storyline, and just the boundaries they would go to. And I think if you're going to go animated, you'd try and push the boundaries as much as you can, like you've seen with Spider-Verse. You're probably not going to see something like that in live action either ever, or they're going to wait a while for it, just because they know, that movie's going to cost not only a lot, but also be a pain in the ass to do. And even on the animation scale, that movie is a pain in the ass to do. So just imagine doing it in live action. So I think if you wanted to do something big like that with the Flash, the animated route is probably the way to go with it. But of course, as I said, like the animated, the voice actors for the animated stuff will cross over into live action. So it'd be very interesting if like the first entry point into this new DC universe with James Gunn is an animated Flash, because then it's like, well, you're gonna have to cast for that. So it'd be very interesting. With a lot of these other characters that you're seeing with Creature Commandos, there's probably only like 1 or 2 where you go, okay, well, that's an important voice acting, or that's an important casting, both for the voice acting side and also the transition to live action. But a lot of them are characters that are wearing like a lot of makeup and stuff like that, or just going going to be like VFX creatures, so there's not much of an issue there. So when it comes to things like this with other animated projects in this DC universe coming up, I think the casting is much more important if they aren't like a monster or like something that's going to have a lot of makeup or be VFX looks or whatever it might be. So that whole fan cast thing that people are going to go with will be very interesting. But of course, if you have any, let me know in the comment section down below, as well as what speedsters you would most want to see in an animated movie like this. Would you rather have some like really obscure ones, or would you really have like a core group of like 3, 4, 5 speedsters, and then just maybe like some like cameo appearances by some more obscure ones? I know, let me know in the comment section down below, as well as your overall thoughts on this idea. Would you want to see it? Everything like that. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. As I said, let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and stuff like that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.